gosh, this basement is dark and scary. Whoa, who are you?
Hello, robot. I am your father.
What? I wasn't expecting this to happen. Alright, what do we got here? Oh, look at this guy. It's like a lizard man. I wonder what it's saying. What do you... What do you... What do you... What do you... Oh, it threw her, and it's got the girl.
What is all the commotion in here? You're supposed to be going to bed now. I told you to hit the sheets 30 minutes ago. That means bedtime.
Dad, I think that this house
What?
might be haunted. Like, seriously, haunted.
Robot, look. In addition to being your father, I'm also a scientist. I'm a man of science. And as a scientist, you can trust me here. There is no such thing as ghosts. No one has ever seen a ghost. No one has ever studied a ghost. There's no peer-reviewed journals about ghosts or properly documented evidence of a ghost ever.
Okay.
It's simply not in the literature. You see?
Look, I swear, I saw a chair move. It was sitting on one side of the room, then I heard a noise, and then when I looked back, the chair was on the other side of the room.
There's a perfectly obvious explanation for why that is.
No, there's not. What is it?
Your motherboard circuits are firing down for the day, and you've got burn-in from something on your cathode ray tube, and you displayed that in your pixel memory bank. Your brain interpreted it as something that you thought you saw, but it's just simple burn-in, you see? It's all simple science. Case closed.
But... Okay, I guess that makes sense.
Okay, good. Glad you feel better. Now get some sleep.
But Dad, don't go. I can't sleep. I need a bedtime story.
You need a bedtime story. You're 13 years old, boy.
Yeah, but Dad, I can't sleep without a story.
All right, fine. What do you got here?
I want this one. I can't read the words.
Comic books, huh? Where'd you find these things anyway? Whatever. Maybe this will help you learn how to read. You know, you've got to learn how to do that at some point. All right. This one's called Till Death. And this comic was written and drawn in 1954 by Johnny Craig. Writer-artist. Nice.
You stand on the end of the pier, staring anxiously out over the glittering, restless waters of the Caribbean Sea. You wipe the perspiration from your face, and then, suddenly, your heart skips a beat. You see it! Just a dot on the horizon. A ship! You've waited 2 years for this ship. For 2 long, back-breaking years, you've sweated to build up your sugar plantation so that it would be fit for a woman to live on. And now that special day has arrived, for this ship is bringing you your future wife. The ship slides into its berth, and the gangplank is lowered. Tourists swarm onto the pier to be swallowed by the bustling dockside activity. And then you see her. Donna! Steve! Your days of waiting are ended. The girl back home has come to marry you. And many hours later, you arrive at your plantation, deep in the jungle. Deep in the jungle of Haiti. Here we are, honey. A minister is waiting inside for us. Oh, Steve, I'm so excited. You're proud as a king. The minister performs a simple ceremony, and the feast begins. The natives chant and beat the drums, dancing, laughing, singing in their happiness. The next few months are pure bliss. Donna wakes you with a kiss each morning. She prepares your meals and serves you faithfully, lovingly. By her presence, she turns the brooding Voodoo island of Haiti into a beautiful isle of romance and love. She's by your side constantly, showering you with her love and devotion. No matter where you go, she is by your side. Your happiness is complete.
Wait a minute. Is this a love story? Did you pick up a romance comic? What's going on here?
Well, I don't know, Robot. Since you can't read yourself, we're just gonna have to keep going and find out. Things could change.
Is this a comic for girls?
But one day, as you stroll with her about the plantation, her steps falter. She grips your arm. Donna, what's the matter? You look pale.
Darling, I feel faint. Help me, Steve. Take me back to the house.
See, I told you something was about to happen.
Quickly, you lift her in your arms and carry her to the house. A runner is sent to fetch a doctor, but you know it won't do any good.
Missy Donna heap bad jungle fever. Bawana Steve.
I know, Jebko. She's going to die. No one ever lives through it. Through the long, anxious hours of the night, you kneel beside her, praying fervently. In the morning, the runner returns with the doctor.
I'm afraid it's too late. She's dead.
It's what I expected. It's always too late. The next day, you bury her. The long, chanting procession climbs to the top of the hill where the yawning grave waits. Through the trackless jungle, drums resound. The enchanted Isle of Romance has returned to its former evil self. Your life is empty now. Nights are filled with agonizing dreams of memories. There's no one to kiss you awake in the morning. Jebko tries hard to take her place. He serves you your meals as she used to. He stays with you always. It hurts him to see you so sad. But it's not the same. Nothing is the same. It can never be the way it once was. Only Donna had cast the spell to change things.
Bawana, you sick and heart since Missy Donna go away. You like maybe have her back, yes?
Jebko, I'd do anything to have her back.
She was my whole life. You get her back, you like maybe keep her all time, yes?
I'd never let her out of my sight, Jebko. I'd keep her and love her forever. That night you drink heavily. You want to deaden your senses to the realities that you dread. But in your subconscious, you hear the voodoo drums. Unknown to you, your faithful servant Jebko has removed your wife from her grave and carried her into the jungle. There, surrounded by frenzied chanting worshippers, a voodoo ritual is performed. The whirling, hysterical natives leap and dance through the flames, mesmerized by the ear-shattering thunder of the drums. Far into the night, the high priestess gyrates spasmodically before the corpse tied to a pole in the center of the fire ring. And suddenly, Donna moves. Immediately, her bonds are severed. Her fingers and her arms twitch. Her head turns slowly, and her eyes are open, glassy and trance-like. She is a member of the living dead. A zombie! A zombie!
Oh my gosh, a zombie? Wait a minute, they knew about zombies in 1954?
Yes, actually, they did.
And then the next morning you are awakened with a kiss. Once again, the world about you is changed. Once more, you feel alive and happy, content with everything and everyone. Life is beautiful. You stroll arm in arm, and the natives grin in their approval of your joy. You are supremely happy. Yes, supremely happy. For a few days. Because slowly, you become aware of something. Pew! Donna! Don't you think you ought to take a bath? A bath helps. A little. But an hour later... Pew! Donna, please! Take another bath! Then, with a shock, you realize... My gosh, baths don't stop her odor. She's dead! She's starting to decay! The sweltering days pass, and Donna's condition continues to worse. Her skin begins to rot and drop from her bones. You try to escape from her, but she remains with you.
Donna, please! Leave me alone just for a little while here, please!
Her entire existence is you. She stays by your side day and night, clinging tightly to your arm. And in the morning...
No, don't kiss me. I'm awake.
Oh my gosh, she's starting to rot. Oh, she stinks.
Days pass into weeks. You're nauseous all the time now, so you stop eating. The putrid odor spreads throughout the house and plantation. But the natives aren't bothered. You are the only one affected, and you can't stand it.
Get away from me, you filthy, rotten thing! Get away, please! You stinking, slimy thing! I'll kill you! Kill you!
It's no use. Bullets won't stop her.
I'll cut you to pieces! Cut! I'll get rid of you!
That won't stop her either. You only make her look worse. And strangling, hanging, or drowning have no effect whatsoever. Frustrated in your every attempt to escape the sickening sight and smell of your wife, you finally tie her with a rope and shove her into the helicopter you used to scout your cane fields. If I push her out, over the jungle, maybe she'll just break into pieces when she hits the ground. It's got to work. You fly over the densest part of the jungle. With a prayer on your lips, you open the door and shove with your foot. You watch the body plunge down and disappear into the foliage below. Then you turn and go back to the plantation. That night, you wait patiently.
She mustn't come back. She mustn't.
A day or two goes by, and you are beginning to feel more relaxed. Although her stench is still in the house, your relief is immense.
I'm free of her. I'll be able to eat again soon.
By the next evening, you're feeling quite well. You ate a meal today, and it stayed down. But just as you're about to retire, Jebko enters.
Bawana, Steve! Missy Donna! She come back!
You race madly out of the house.
It can't be. She can't come back.
You stop. There, stumbling grotesquely across the compound towards you, is the rotted remains of what was once your wife. You feel sick. You turn swiftly and race past Jebko into the house. It's the end now.
You can't take it anymore. There's only one way left. The medicine chest. Your hands fumble in frantic haste,
but you find what you're looking for.
If you can't destroy her, you've got to destroy yourself. You open the bottle marked poison and drink.
The poison is strong. It acts quickly. You feel the burning in your throat. Your surroundings are going black. For a long while, you float in a sea of darkness. And then, bit by bit, you hear the faraway sound of thunder. The noise grows louder and clearer. You recognize it as the rumbling of drums. You feel a great heat. You twitch and open your eyes. You see a great wall of fire and hear the mad, frantic screaming of hundreds of natives. The drums pound through your head as you move your hand. A native leaps through the flames and slashes the ropes that bind you. Dumbly, you take a step forward, and a great roar fills your ears. You walk through the circle of leaping flames and feel nothing. Then Jebko and the High Priestess comfort you.
It's good. Bawana Steve, him say, be with Missy Donna all time.
A dim realization dawns upon you. You didn't feel pain when you walked through the fire. You felt nothing. Then you feel nothing now. You're a zombie, one of the living dead. And as Jebko said, you'll be with Donna for all time now. Forever. Look out. Here she comes.
Well, you were right, Robot. It was a romance comic after all.
Dad,
Yes, son?
are voodoo and zombies real?
Well, son, I guess it's time you heard the truth about where zombies and voodoo came from. In fact, I studied a lot about world spiritual beliefs, and zombies do have a correlation. It's a complex situation, and there's a lot to be cleared up here.
Robot's Bedtime Stories is sponsored by Pendy.co. Pentecost handmade aroma products, including CBD-infused candles and incense, can assist with anxiety, stress, and restlessness. Use code ROBOT for 20% off your order.
Now it's time for the story behind the story. The horror comic Till Death was written in 1953, during a time when zombies were a fresh concept to American readers and not known under the associations that we think of them today. In fact, the very first zombie in comics ever was only 7 years prior to this story. As you know, by the 2010s, zombies have reached a mainstream popularity with a whole host of pop culture films, comics, TV shows, video games, and books. Business Insider considered zombies to be a $5 billion a year industry to the American economy. There's even a children's TV show about zombies in middle school now on the Disney Channel.
Yeah, you're right, zombies are pretty popular. How'd that happen?
Many think zombies started through the George A. Romero film Night of the Living Dead in 1968.
Of the Living Dead.
However, that film was only a reinterpretation of pre-existing zombie lore for American audiences by removing the corresponding Haitian voodoo component.
Nightmare.
Prior to that film, zombies were usually associated with Haiti and voodoo. Such was so in the 1940s when zombies began to be interpreted into American comic books. In 1949, EC Comics printed their very first horror comic ever, and surprise, it was about a zombie, titled Zombie Terror, and it was also written and drawn by Johnny Craig, the artist of Till Death. Johnny Craig would go on to tell several tales of Haitian zombies in his horror comics he drew, but Till Death is usually regarded as his best, although he was going off what information and understanding was likely available at the time.
So then zombies actually came from Haiti?
During World War I, American troops had occupied Haiti starting in 1915 in order to prevent a feared German invasion and control of the country. During this occupation, American culture started to hear stories about the exotic, mysterious island with its voodoo religion. There were other rumors heard as well, that voodoo had the power to bring back the dead. It was during this time that the very first zombie movie ever was made, 1932's White Zombie.
There's superstitions in Haiti that the natives brought here from Africa. Some of them can be traced back as far as ancient Egypt.
Zombies. They are my servants.
The film depicts a voodoo master in Haiti, played by Bela Lugosi, who learns voodoo and brings back the dead as slaves to work his sugar mill and do his bidding. Voodoo itself is freely interpreted as a mystic power that gives him control of the dead. Both the comic Till Death and White Zombie feature a wife who dies and is brought back from the dead. Still, the actual myth of the zombie dates back much further.
How much further?
We have to go all the way back to the early 1500s, just after Columbus's arrival in the Caribbean.
Christopher Columbus?
At that time, the first African slaves were being brought to Haiti to work on sugar plantations. Slavery in Haiti at the time was very brutal. Many slaves died from being worked to death. Within days of arrival, slaves were forced to abandon their native African spiritual beliefs and to take up Catholicism instead. Some slaves escaped into the mountains, but many others died from suicide. Slaves at the time believed that when they died, they would return to Africa in another life to be free. However, the horror and subjugation of slavery caused another belief to develop, that those who took their own life would not return to Africa, but their bodies would return from the dead to work the plantations for an eternity as a soulless zombie.
In the mountains, the slaves that escaped and the few remaining indigenous peoples that survived colonization combined what they remembered about their native religions from Africa and the indigenous Taínos' spiritual beliefs, along with some Catholicism that had been taught to the slaves. The melding of these elements among the escaped slaves and the now extinct natives became the origins of Voodoo. Because Voodoo was at odds with the enforced religion Catholicism, it was feared and outlawed, but began to spread as an underground religion among the slave colonies. It is credited that Voodoo spiritual beliefs in the Iowa spirits inspired the Africans to revolt in 1791. Some say the revolution was started by slaves who were supposedly possessed by a positive deity during a voodoo ritual, and the end result being the first successful slave revolt in human history in 1804. That led to the Declaration of Freedom for the newly formed Republic of Haiti, the only state to have ever arisen from the liberation of slaves. Because the voodoo religion led to a successful slave revolt, voodoo was demonized, suppressed, and outlawed to prevent the possibility of slave revolts from spreading beyond Haiti to other slave colonies. Catholicism remained prominent on the island, and voodoo beliefs were oppressed for centuries to come. Some Haitians became attached to Catholic beliefs, and some to voodoo. And yet some mix the two together with no problems, to this day. It was the confusion and misunderstanding of voodoo for generations later that influenced outsiders to believe that zombies were the reanimated corpses brought back to life by voodoo priests, when in reality, voodooists believe in positive possession of the body by spirits called Iwa during ceremonies. The actual spiritual beliefs within voodoo, which might seem foreign, are really not that radically different from the spiritual beliefs of other world religions. Yet voodoo carries with it the stigma of being something unknowable, bizarre, and of pagan black magic. From then on, the myth of zombies and the surrounding misinformation around voodoo continued to spread and change. Voodoo continues to be misunderstood even today. There is often confusion between voodoo, the religion practiced primarily in Haiti, and the Louisiana incarnation of voodoo, which is actually a separate belief system of its own. Kate Ramsey, author of The Spirits and the Law, Voodoo and the Power of Haiti, said that arguably no religion has been subject to more maligning and misinterpretation from outsiders during the 19th and 20th centuries. While Donald Cosentino, author of Voodoo, A Way of Life, described it as the most fetishized and maligned religion in the world with a notorious reputation. It was only in 1972 that Haitians were free to practice voodoo, and only in 2003 that voodoo was recognized as an official religion by Haiti alongside Catholicism and Protestantism. Although the modern concept of zombies are widely known by everyone today, the actual origin myth of zombies owes its legacy to Haitian slaves in the 1500s, who feared being damned for eternity to work the sugar plantations in the afterlife.
Oh, wow. I didn't know anything about that.
Oh my gosh, I love the show. How can I support Robot's Bedtime Stories?
You can support the show by buying the Robot Refrigerator Magnet Kit. Now you can convert your refrigerator into your own life-sized robot. Use Robot's giant pinchers to hold onto your receipts, photos, and notes. Let Robot look after those important items. He's learning responsibility. Looks great on all kinds of refrigerators. Look at the beautiful diversity. And all profits go towards fundraising for future episodes of Robot's Bedtime Stories. Links in the description for a limited time. Also, be sure to check out Pindy.co for CBD-infused incense, candles, and more.
Robot's Bedtime Stories.
All right, Robot. After that story, you better get some sleep. And remember, you've got chores around the house tomorrow, and no excuses this time. some sleep. Oh my god. Oh my god, that was creepy. It's just burning in my tubes, like Dad said. There's no such thing as ghosts. There's no such thing as ghosts. 100%. 100%. Science confirms it. Ghosts are not real. Scary noises are not real. Wait a minute. Dad lost his job at the science lab. That's why he's working in the basement. What if Dad is a terrible scientist? Okay, I'm just gonna look. There's nothing there. I'm just gonna look real quick. Okay. Oh, thank God. See? There was nothing there to begin with. Just had to let the burn-in my tubes go away, like Dad